And that includes deadlifts. I was freaking going. Hey, bro, dogs are going nuts. I'm on one, man. Going on one. I mean, I'm on one, freaking man. Going. Hey, man, dogs are going nuts. I'm on one, man. Going on one. I mean, I was going. Hey, bro, I had the rage, man. Going. Mental buzz. Freaking going. Hey, man, I had the rage, man. Going. Mental buzz.
What up? It's Garage Gym Homie. Today I just wanted to make a quick video about prison programming and what it was like when I got out, and is it worth it? Before we get into this here, please click the subscribe button, homies. I got content coming out all the dang time for you, man. So click subscribe and let's get into this. Hey man, I just wanted to kind of test out this program that I got running here for the computer, and so I just wanted to use it as an opportunity to talk about something from the past. And prison is a very real topic. You know, I have a close friend of mine who went to a boarding school with me in Texas, and that was a very traumatic experience for both of us, and especially as a child, you know, like 17 years old, being sent away to a boarding school that was based around fear, you know. And I think a lot of the experiences I went through after that kind of covered that traumatic experience up, in the sense that, like, compared to boarding school, like prison and county jail in LA, were way more way crazier. So I don't even really think about my boarding school experience as like super traumatic or anything unless I talk about it. Prison was freaking, dude, county jail and prison is freaking wild, dude. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of time, a lot more time than me. I've counted it probably about 4 years of my life to jails and prisons. And I've been to 2 different state penitentiaries, and I've been to county jail in 3 different states. And the mentality in there stays with you for a long time. And some things about that are really good, and some things about that are not very good. And so I kind of was just thinking about it, taking a look at, you know, where I come from, and how our environments really can program and condition us to think differently and become a different person, you know, in the head. And getting out of there, it stuck with me for a while, a lot of that thinking, and I still struggle with some of it today, man. And I don't know if that's from prison necessarily, but I'll go into detail. So there's pretty much 3 ways that I really recall that I had to reprogram when getting out of prison. The first way that was really the first way that I remember, and I got out of prison, I paroled from prison in 2010. And went from there to a rehab center in Los Angeles that gave me like a full scholarship that I was writing back and forth with while I was in the penitentiary. And the first way was I always sat with my back against the wall. I remember that was one thing in prison that really changed how I thought. I never sat anywhere with not being able to see what was going on behind me, because I never wanted to get blindsided. And that stuck with me after I got out of prison. For a long time, I would sit at like a restaurant or something, and it always felt very, very strange and very uncomfortable for some reason for me to sit where I couldn't see what was going on behind me. So I always wanted to be with my back against the wall. And So that was kind of interesting. And that kind of mentality slowly kind of faded away. And I wouldn't say that's something that sticks with me to this day or anything, because it just wasn't, maybe it wasn't so deeply ingrained in me that it still sticks with me today. Another thing that stuck with me from being locked up was being ready to fight people. Excuse my language, but there's certain words that if you're called a bitch or a punk or a lame, there's a few other words like a POS or whatever, you know, those things in county jail or in prison, it's mandatory that you fight people. Like if someone called me, excuse me again, a bitch, there's no questions asked, or that's not a joking thing you say in jail. That's something you automatically have to fight. In California, at least. It wasn't like that maybe in Michigan when I was locked up. But California is where I really got all the mentality ingrained in me, because I did the most time there, and it's the most serious and political and stuff inside. And, you know, so those are kind of words that I would say growing up to people. You know, like if I have a good friend, it was easy for me to say to him, oh, come on, man, don't be a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, that's just something you just kind of say, but it's different in jail. So when I got out of there and I paroled to that rehab, that didn't stick with me. You know, like I made friends at the rehab or whatever, and we would talk junk to each other, and they would say, you know, like, don't be a bitch or whatever. And, or come on, man, you're being a bitch or something like that. And I instinctually wanted to freaking fight them. Like, what'd you call me? You don't call me that, homeboy. Like on it, you know. And so that took a long time for me to really reprogram that kind of thinking, where I had to ease up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, first of all, I don't claim to be a tough dude or a fighter or anything crazy like that. I mean, I'm not coming on here pretending I'm too hard for the yard. There's just certain things you have to do in there. And I've been in fights, and I've been jumped, and I've been in very violent situations. I've been in racial riots. Not because I'm tough or I wanted to do. I guess those things might have made me tough, tougher at least, and given me some more confidence with defending myself. But, I mean, to this day, if somebody said, what's the least thing in the world you'd want to do, I would say fight somebody. I mean, I've only had to do that in my life when I absolutely was forced to. And it was, I mean, those are scary experiences. So, yeah, so reprogramming and letting go of that, and feeling like I don't have to jump and... you know, punch someone in the face because they use the word, the B word, or, you know, whatever to me. And, or, you know, don't, you know, come on, man, you're being a punk or whatever. You know, that kind of thing, like, that kind of thing, when that's said in jail or prison, if somebody called me that in jail or prison and I didn't fight him, that would be a really bad situation for me. So those are words that, you know, don't get thrown. And I don't call people that. I don't swear now. You know I just did in the video, just for example. I hope God forgives me, you know, because I don't like to speak like that. But just for an example, you know, I don't talk like that now. I don't call people that. I don't call women hoes or this or that. I don't like to talk ugly. I think it's bad for my soul, and I like being conscious of the words that come out of my mouth. That I feel brings me closer to God. And the other thing, the last part that was really, really apparent in jail or prison that I had to reprogram, and, you know, that was being racist. When you're with those white boys, and I don't want to say the term, like, racist as in I'm a racist guy or anything like that, but you got to understand that when you're in there and you roll with the politics, and I'm a white man, and I'm, in the prison gang essentially with other white men. I mean, I'm a San Fernando Peckerwood, SFV Peckerwood, San Fernando Valley, and I roll with the white people in a prison. There's a lot of stuff that they say that's disgusting, and they talk very poorly about the blacks. They talk very, very poorly about they do talk poorly about Mexicans, but not as much as the blacks, because blacks just get really, really just trashed in there. I mean, not to their face like that, but it gets really like the way the white boys talk, where it's just kind of ingrained in you that you just have negative things to say about other races. It's very racially segregated. And so you catch yourself when you're partaking in it, because you really don't have a choice. I mean, you're not going to be like, oh, come on, guys, that's not very nice to say. I mean, you're surrounded by it, and it's constantly going in your ears and your brain. Like, for example, if I got punched in the face by a white man, by a Mexican, there's no one-on-one fight. You have to jump, and all the whites would jump, all the Mexicans would jump in that dorm or wherever we're at, and it would be a racial riot. So there's no Mexican punching me in the face. That would be a riot. If there was a black guy who I punched in the face, they would always say, like, watch, man, the blacks, they don't jump for each other. They're not like us. They're not, the Mexicans don't, the Mexicans jump for each other. They'd say, if you want one bean, you get the whole burrito, like that. And they would always say things like, the blacks, they're not like, they don't care about each other. They don't stand. And I don't even think that's true. I think real OG blacks who've done a lot of time in prison, they're going to jump for each other. I don't even think that's true. But that's the kind of talk, like, that gets ingrained in you about black people. And you start being very judgmental and thinking negatively. And I would catch myself lots of times in county jail and in prison thinking something judgmental or negative. And then I'd catch myself and be like, dude, that's not you. Like, don't let this place infiltrate you like that. Don't be hijacked like that. Like, that's not you. And the more you're programmed, you realize, like, you start thinking like hateful, like, and that's not who I am deep down to the core. But it's just kind of a good example of just how powerful the media is, like on a bigger level, how powerful our media is. And I'm not just talking about news, I'm talking about all kinds of media. When you repeatedly put things in your ears and eyes, and it changes your thinking. You could watch movies and stuff like that, and you could say, well, it's just a movie or whatever. When you repeatedly program yourself and condition yourself constantly, I don't care how you think, when you're opening yourself up to that, you change how you think. And so when I got out of there, dude, it was very strange to me to be able to have interactions with black people, because I felt like I was doing something wrong. When you're in jail or prison, it's one thing you could trade food with the Mexicans, you could talk junk with them. At the end of the day, it's all whites, Mexicans, and blacks, all separate, on where you roll with. But like you're able to trade food with them or make deals and stuff like that. The blacks are like completely off limits. You couldn't play card games with them or anything like that. That's not happening in jail or prison. You can play card games with the Mexicans and stuff So when I got out of jail, and I'd have interactions just here and there, just randomly with black people, there was this feeling like I'm going to get caught, or like I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. You know, let's say a black person gives me something, whatever it is. I can't really think of any specific interactions I had with black people on the street. Probably dope deals and stuff like that. Who knows? But you know, like it just. I remember getting out there and talking to black people and thinking like, man, we're just like having a conversation. Like it didn't feel right. And so so I couldn't imagine really, and that's with me doing, you know, little stints in jail or prison, as I said, like 4 years. I couldn't imagine what that's really like for someone who's been in a California prison system for like 15 years, 20 years. How that programming has just completely hijacked your consciousness and, you know, the power, you know, that it takes to reprogram. I've done a lot of talking to you guys about how I've reprogrammed myself from the porn industry and from the crazy sex life that I had. That went on for many years. But that's the power of God, man. You know, that's the power of God and just being true to ourselves, you know. And I catch myself today being judgmental in ways that I shouldn't. You know, like, I don't know, man, just whether it's about other races or whatever. And that's not who I am to the core, but it's easy to judge people unfavorably. Or, you know, when you hear about, I don't know, a crime being committed or something, and the first thought is, I bet it was a black dude or whatever, you know, and I'm like, man, why are you gonna think like that? You know, like, like, that's not a very spiritual approach, you know, that's not who I want to be. And, hey man, but I'll always keep it real with you. So I try to really be conscious of my thinking, and I know we all judge, but judging people favorably is very important. We all judge. We're supposed to, as men, as women, as humans, as people with, you know, brains that think. We got to make judgment calls, but we're supposed to judge favorably. So, you know, prison is very powerful. I mean, I was very on edge, and I learned a lot and I also gained some very, very positive things. Respect, you know, bumping into you say the word excuse me like 100 times a day in prison. You slightly bump somebody, you this, a lot of respect and a lot of being very conscious of the way that you talk to people, you approach people, you word things, you have to be very mindful of the way you carry yourself. And a lot of that stuff translates into some very good skills, you know. And I learned a lot of that from boarding schools and rehabs and stuff, like just situations where I've lived with other people. You become very conscious and very mindful of the way you live, not being a slob, not, you know, being military-like, you know. You wake up, right away you brush your teeth, because if you talk to somebody with bad breath, that's disrespect. Someone will punch you in the freaking mouth. You talk to someone and you didn't brush your teeth or whatever. So a lot of this stuff you wouldn't think about unless you've been in jail or prison. And it definitely can be helpful. And it's all a growing experience, man. I'm just so grateful I'm not in there anymore, man. But I just want to make a video about some of the stuff I dealt with, you know, getting out of there. Just being on edge, on guard, you know, just being... many ways, man. I could think of a ton of other examples about how jail and prison made me just very on guard and very quick to jump and quick to, you know, like always in combat mode. Like I felt like I was there, like just ready to be in combat at any given time. And that's a scary mentality, that constant fight response, you know, a constant... you know, or I'm ready to just freaking tear you apart if you say the wrong thing to me, and this and that, and making sure nobody thinks that I'm getting disrespect. That kind of stuff that I had to let go of, and definitely the racial segregation stuff, where you just feel like you're doing something wrong by interacting or breaking bread with other races and stuff like that. That's crazy, like old school mentality, it feels like, but it's alive and well in the prison system. And hey man, God is just so amazing, and I'm just glad he freed me from physically being in there, and also from my obsession to drink and get high, man. It's really a beautiful life. So I do like making content sometimes, just to let you guys know where I came from, because I think that's important. So if you know that I can come from that and be the person I am today, just to demonstrate for you just kind of how powerful God really is, and how if I can get well, man, anyone can get well. And if you're, haven't burned your brain out or whatever. And the other thing, I do it as just as a reminder, man. I don't often think about where I came from, so it's nice sometimes to remind myself, so I can look around this beautiful house and be like, man, just a little gratitude, man. Like, God is so freaking good to me, so amazing. Like, think about where you came from, because I don't often think about where I came from. I'm not often reminded about just how freaking horrible it was, and how scary it was, and how just constant terror that I was in, man. I remember being in prison. I remember waking one day, I thought to myself, I finally know what the saying sleep with one eye closed means. Like, I get it. Like, it clicked, because I was threatened for being Jewish, and I got in fights, and people threatened to kill me, and I was very on guard, and I made some videos about that. But that's what I got, man. Comment below, let me know what you think. God bless all of you, man. So is it worth it going to prison? For me it was, man. It made me the person I am today, and I'll just always keep it real with you, man. Some of the stuff is hard to man, I just realized there was a good freaking delight. I think I got a bruise, man. I just realized I got a bruise. What I was going to say is the light that I set up here smacked me in the face, man. And I'm grateful for all my experiences, man. I don't regret any of them, because it molded me into the person I am today. And I can hopefully help some people and be a light to the world. God bless all of you, man. Together, let's get this dang muscle. I'm out.